The film begins with a man watching the news about the Cold War tensions that continue to plague the country and how fifth-term President Nixon plans to address them. Suddenly, a masked intruder attacks the man and executes him by throwing him off his building's window to make it seem like a suicide. In the opening credits scene, we learn of the rise of costumed superheroes and how they helped the government fight off crime. However, the public soon turned against the heroes, forcing them to retreat and hide, fearing that their lives were in danger. Rorschach, a masked detective operating illegally, breaks into the deceased's house to conduct his own investigation. He looks around and realizes something that terrifies him. He notes down his findings in his journal and then flees the scene, beating up a few police officers who try to arrest him. Daniel Dreiberg meets with a former colleague and they talk about the Watchmen, a superhero group formed to counteract gang violence. When he gets home, he is surprised to find Rorschach waiting for him. Rorschach reveals that he has gone to investigate the murder and knows who the deceased is. It turns out that Rorschach, Daniel, and the deceased were part of the vigilante superhero team called the Watchmen. The deceased was Eddie Blake, popularly known as the comedian. Rorschach feels that someone is after the superheroes and wants to get rid of them, so he wants Daniel to be careful. Consequently, Daniel visits Adrian Veidt, a wealthy businessman and a member of the Watchmen called Ozymandias. Daniel warns Adrian that someone might be coming after them. However, Adrian is not worried, as he is currently working on developing renewable energy that could have the potential to avert war. He is also working with another Watchmen member, John Osterman, known as Dr. Manhattan, to provide a solution. Rorschach continues on his mission to warn the Watchmen and travels to the U.S. Military Research Center to warn John and his live-in girlfriend Lori Jupiter / Silk Spectre 2 about the impending danger. However, Manhattan dismisses his claims as he too is focused on his energy research. He also claims that temporal interference is tampering with his ability to see the future. Manhattan teleports Rorschach out of the building, but his busy workdays cause him to have an argument with Lori. She leaves and meets up with Dan for dinner. The two reminisce on the old days, and it's evident that both miss being superheroes. Soon it is time for Blake's funeral, and all the Watchmen attend the burial. However, it is revealed that Blake was a pessimist and a sadist who enjoyed watching people suffer. Each Watchman recounts his experience with Blake, and it is not a pleasant one. Manhattan remembers a time during the Vietnam War when a woman approached the comedian, saying that she was pregnant. The comedian was so angry that he shot her. The comedian then told Manhattan that he could have easily stopped him, but he didn't since he is losing faith in humanity. After the funeral, Manhattan teleports Lori to her mother's house. Her mother is visibly upset about the comedian's death. Lori and her mother have a strained relationship, as Lori feels that her mother is incapable of love. A flashback reveals that the comedian had tried to take advantage of Lori's mother while they were working together. Luckily, someone intervened, but the attack traumatized her so much that she lost confidence and belief in herself. Meanwhile, Rorschach witnesses someone paying his respects way later after the burial. Rorschach follows the person and is surprised when it turns out to be Jacoby, a former supervillain. Rorschach attacks Jacoby, and he reveals that a few nights ago, the comedian had broken into his house mumbling something and looking remorseful. This makes Rorschach suspect that something else is going on, and he is determined to find out what. That evening, Lori is hanging out with Manhattan when she realizes that he has duplicated himself and his real self is working on the energy project. This angers Lori so deeply that she breaks up with him. Manhattan is devastated, but he has to attend a TV interview to talk more about his energy project. At the interview, Manhattan realizes that the people have no idea whether to befriend or isolate him. Soon, Manhattan is confronted by Janie, his ex-girlfriend. She reveals that she is suffering from cancer and that she got it from him. Journalists start throwing questions and accusations toward Manhattan, making him feel overwhelmed. When he cannot bear the attack questions anymore, Manhattan teleports to Mars. Here, Manhattan starts remembering his life back when he was not the blue humanoid he is now. Manhattan is the only one of the superheroes in the world to have superpowers. He was in love with Janie, and the two had been so happy. One night, Manhattan had an accident that transformed him into a blue humanoid. He continued dating Janie, but Janie broke up with him. He then met Lori, and the two started dating, but now even she had broken up with him. He is feeling alone, and he hates people for all the horrible things they do to one another. Meanwhile, An assassin breaks into Adrian's office and attempts to eliminate him. Luckily, Adrian defeats the guy, but he swallows a suicide pill, making it impossible to know who had sent him. This assassination attempt is enough to make Adrian realize that Rorschach might have been right. After her argument with Manhattan, Laurie sought out Dan and the two began hanging out together. They both desire to be superheroes again and are determined to make it work. In his investigation, Rorschach goes back to Jacoby's house only to find him dead. Police surround the house and Rorschach is arrested for the murder of Jacoby. His bandaged mask is removed and Rorschach's face is revealed. He tells of the many horrible deeds he had done in his life, but maintains that he is innocent in this case. In the prison, several inmates try to attack him, but Rorschach unveils his ruthless nature, warning the prisoners that they are trapped with him, not the other way around. Dan and Laurie put on their superhero costumes and break Rorschach out of prison so they can continue the investigation. The group realizes that the people behind the murders and assassination attempts all work for a company called Pyramid. What is even more surprising is that Adrian funds the company, meaning that he is the mastermind behind everything. Manhattan appears at that moment and teleports Laurie to Jupiter, leaving Dan and Rorschach to go after Adrian. Rorschach wants to destroy the Earth, as he has no reason to trust humanity again. However, he enters Laurie's mind and realizes that Laurie's father is none other than Blake. He thinks that this is a miracle, seeing that Laurie's mother opted to be in a relationship with Blake despite him trying to take advantage of her earlier. Seeing how good Laurie is, Manhattan decides to spare humanity as there is still some good left in the world. Dan and Rorschach get to Antarctica where Adrian is hiding and they confront him. After a brief fight, Adrian admits that he had been the one who eliminated Blake in the beginning. He also killed Jacoby since he started asking questions. Adrian admits that he had built a transmitter to prevent Manhattan from seeing the future so he couldn't see Adrian's plan. He also gave several people cancer and pinned it on Manhattan. He had hired the assassin to attempt to kill him and gave him the suicide pill so he could not reveal the truth. Adrian confesses that he plans to make humanity have a common enemy, as this will help put a stop to the ongoing wars. He plans to bomb various major cities and pin the attacks on Manhattan. He says that to save billions, millions must die. Dan and Rorschach try to stop the plan, but it is too late and the bombs explode, executing millions. President Nixon holds a press release saying that Manhattan is the culprit behind the attacks. News shows various world leaders uniting to create a solution in how to defeat Manhattan. Manhattan and Laurie come back to the Earth to find New York City devastated. They teleport to where the rest of the team is and learn about Adrian's plan. Adrian attacks Manhattan by disintegrating him with an energy boost. However, Manhattan quickly reassembles himself and approaches Adrian. At that moment, news reports reveal that the Soviet Union and the United States government have put aside their conflicts and are working on rebuilding their cities and attacking Manhattan. Sadly, Manhattan realizes that this is the only way to save humanity from itself. He knows that the ongoing wars might lead to more devastation and that humans need a common enemy. He is willing to sacrifice himself to let that happen. Rorschach refuses to let Manhattan take the fall for something that wasn't his fault. He tells the team that they either let him walk away and tell everyone about what he knows, or they eliminate him. This prompts Manhattan to evaporate Rorschach, while Dan watches on in agony. Manhattan then bids Laurie goodbye and says that he will look for another planet and hopefully start a life there. Laurie calls her mother and tells her that she knows about Blake being her father. The two women have an emotional conversation and put their differences aside for mutual understanding. With the crisis averted, Dan and Laurie start living together as a couple. They are hopeful about what the future will bring, as it is evident that the world has become peaceful after Adrian's plan. One day, Rorschach's diary containing the truth about the bomb explosion shows up at a local journalist's desk. The journalist is out of ideas and needs to find something new to write about.